Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie, and I would like to welcome you to episode number 26 of Doodle Gems. In this episode, we are going to do Hematite, and it is a sort of a cross between a rock and a metal. It's an ore, so come on, let's learn how to draw it, and I'll tell you a little bit about it as we're going along. So in Prismacolor, I'm using black, the 50% gray, white, indigo, and a colorless blender. If I were doing this in Crayolas, I would be using the black, the slate gray, the white, and the navy. And as always, if you have the ability to get yourself one Prismacolor pencil in white and one colorless blender, it will make your life so much easier, even with the Crayola pencils. So we're going to do Hematite, and I am doing it with the Prismacolor pencils. And to get started, I'm going to take the gray and give myself just a soft little oval, kind of an egg shape. It can be lumpy. It can be bumpy. Hematite doesn't have to be shiny, but the hematite that I'm doing is a shiny one. And I'm starting off with the gray and giving sort of a little halo around the bottom edge and the top edge in this soft gray. Sort of starting at 3 o'clock on the right-hand side, going down around to about 7 o'clock, and just a little ways in. And then on the other edge, starting at about 9 o'clock and going around to about 1 o'clock. So you're ending up with these sort of two parentheses looking shapes. Not hard. You want the edges to be kind of feathered, soft. You're going to be doing a lot of blending on here, and there's going to be a lot of color being dropped into this little stone. It is primarily black and gray and white with a tiny bit of blue. And I think I'm going to actually grab the white, and I'm going to put, going from about 11 o'clock to about 3 o'clock, a layer of white going around from the left to the right. And this is wider than those first two strips that you did. This is probably about a quarter down from the top of the stone. And down here at the bottom, I'm actually not going to do a matching shape of white. I'm just going to, from about 6 o'clock going to 4 o'clock, a little line. And that's a narrow line, that's not a deep line. And I know you really can't see this on the screen right now. It will make a difference when we're putting in the rest of the color, which is going to be mostly black with a little bit of blue. We will be washing over this, or running over this with the white pencil and with the colorless blender to sort of smooth in some of these colors so it's seamless. I also put in from about 8 o'clock to about 10 o'clock, just a little strip of white. You're going to start seeing that a little bit more now as I put some black in. And I'm going to go down right there between 7 and 8 o'clock and start laying the black. We are going to end up with really heavy concentration of color on here, but to start off with, we just want to get a layer on of black. So right now, I'm just laying this in pretty fast, just lay it in. And so we're filling up the middle of the clock. going from 7 to 8 and then heading into the center. And just filling up all of that space that didn't have any white yet or any of the soft gray. But now I'm going to start working some of that black up across a little bit of the white. I'm going to stop talking about the clock now, though. I was mostly doing that so that you would know what I was doing with a white pencil on white paper. But there we go. And now I'm going to the outside edge, and I'm laying some of this black right over that very outside edge where that gray is. And you'll go, well, why didn't you just use the black to draw your stone? And that would be a good question. It's just personal preference. The gray is a little bit easier to work around if I didn't like the shape. But it gave me a place to start. And now I'm going to start doing some of my overlaying of colors. So first off, I'm going to take some of this gray and I'm going to lay it in over the black. And that's going to actually work a lot like a blender and smooth out that black, because what you want on this particular type of stone is a mirror shininess. So you don't really want to see any of the white sparkle of the paper underneath. Those little white lines and white bubbles and bumps that will show up. And now I'm taking that gray around the outside, just inside the edge of the black. And a little bit up into that white. If you look at that, it's already starting to look a little bit shiny. A little bit shiny. But it's not there yet. Remember, we're layering. Lots of little layers. Lots of little layers. And then I'm going to take the white and I'm going to lay in, because that's going to give me a slightly different gray, to bring that white in over those edges. And where the black was overlaid onto the white, I'm going to start smoothing it in around those edges to sort of block those down, or lock those down, sorry. Sort of lock those edges down now, sort of liking those. I'm going to take the white right over the top and dull down a little bit that white stripe by blending in the gray and the black. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take some of this white right around these outside edges, and then I'll bring the black in right up against it. And what that's going to do is just give us another little edge where there's some white highlight. Just a bit, but it just stands out just a little bit. So now hematite is this really cool iron stone, and I didn't know that if you take a piece of hematite and you drag it along the bottom of like a ceramic plate that's got that rough edge to it, it won't make a mark that's gray, even though the stone looks gray. It will make a mark that's red or reddish brown. And it's because of the iron that's in it. Hematite can be found all over the world. It's not a rare stone. The most common use for hematite is to be ground down into a powder and used as an abrasive for fine jewelry. They call it jeweler's rouge because it's this red paste that they make out of the powdered hematite. I didn't know that either until I started researching it for this show. Pretty fun. Now I'm going to go ahead and just a smidge of this blue, sort of near the edges where the gray and the white and black are all coming together. Just a little bit. And I kind of noticed that this stone is looking almost like an eye or an alien eyeball or something. That's unintentional. It just happened to work out that way. All right, and now what I want to do is just grab that colorless blender. You could do this with the white and not even need a colorless blender. But I just want to knock that blue into the background without dulling it down too much. I want it to still be noticeable, but not like it's right in your face. So it's blue, it's there, you see it, but it's not saying this is a blue stone. It's blue, it's there, you see it, and it says, oh, it's maybe reflecting something that's a little bit blue in its environment. And then I'm going to take that colorless blender right around the outside edge, soften down that black just a smidge, and we have completed the actual stone. And while the ink is wet, oh, I need to get my pen started again. Put it on, and while the ink is wet, just sort of smooth it up with my finger. And what that does is it blurs out that white. It's still there, you know it's there. We're going to do a really fun doodle around this. I've been playing with this design, and I think I have it figured out on how to explain how to draw it. So what we're going to do is right next to the stone at the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock, we're going to make 2 circles. And they're about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit bigger. The size really doesn't matter as long as you have your 4 circles all about the same size. So then you're going to put a dot at 3 o'clock and a dot at 9 o'clock. Now these are circles, not dots. I understand that. I sometimes use words in an interesting way. And what I'm going to do is draw circles going down in size. Just going down in size. Down, 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 down. Starting with the big circle as number 1 on that, then making the next circle a little bit smaller, the next circle a little bit smaller, and just working my way down. They do not have to have the same number of circles. If your spacing is a little bit wider and you want to have more in one spot, go for it. I am not counting my circles. They are just happening how they happen. And some are almost the same size, and then I'm getting smaller, getting smaller. Come on, Steph, get smaller. There you go. See, I give myself pep talks. As I'm drawing, I give myself pep talks. It's like, you're doing a good job. You can get there. Your art is special because you're special. I give myself these pep talks, but then I'm also thinking about you guys. So now I've got these, I hope I've been staying on screen for you. Now I've got these circles, top and bottom, left and right, and they go down and get smaller. So I'm going to take and draw a line right over the top. And then I'm going to draw another line that's sort of like making a smile. Look at that, looks like a smiley. And we're going to do that all the way around. So I'm going to start here at the top, follow that shape right down to the bottom of, towards the bottom of that dot right there, and do the same thing, but this time I'm going to go out and swing back in. So it's making moon shapes or smiley mouths. And move to the next big circle and swoop down. Start back at that same starting point. Make your smile. Rotate. Start here. Swoop down. And then over, around, and down. And now we are going to go with putting circles going around the outside, because I want this to have sort of a line of beads circling this. Oh, stay up there. Line of beads circling this hematite with sort of a ribbon that's woven through. So to make that part work, let's see here. How do I want to draw that? I want to start here. Making a big circle. And then around the outside of this little smiley face, I am going to go all the way along the edge. The bottom of the circles are each touching. The circles are getting smaller as I go along. Smaller and smaller. And now when I get down here to the end of that point, I'm actually going to leave it. There's going to be a gap. That's okay, because now I'm going to put another big circle and then rotate. And then I'm going to start following the edge of that smiley face, making the circles smaller and smaller as I go, and keeping the circles roughly circle-ish. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. And we're at the bottom of that smiley, and now I'm going to make another big circle and follow this one around. Follow the edge of that smiley face. I think it's good for all of us to give ourselves pep talks. Share your work, but share it with people who are going to be supportive of your work. If you know that Uncle Joe is never going to say something nice, don't show him your artwork. Share it with people that you know are going to support you, that are going to tell you that you are doing an awesome job, because you are. You're taking risks, you're being creative, you're growing as an artist. Those are all things that are important. Okay, so now I am going to go ahead and, so I was using a Micron 02 to do that drawing. I think it's going to get colored with a colored pencil. Those are such wide spaces. So this wide space here, that is my Prismacolor black. This wide space here is going to get colored in really hard black. It's going to make that space just disappear into the background. And then those little triangles that are at the bases, if you see white, go ahead and throw some black on those too. We will be coloring the circles, all those little beads, with the 50% gray when we get to that. When we get to that.
is just a sweet little doodle. It's easy enough for anyone to do. You just pay attention to where you started with your big dots and make littler dots. And then making those smiley faces. Look at that. It's going together really fast. So if you see a spot that's got a white smile or a white triangle below that smile or at that joint where they meet, go ahead and throw some black into that. We're just making this all like it's antiqued or patinaed silver or a patinaed metal. If you ever see silver that is all black and grungy looking, it will polish right back up with just a little bit of a jewelry polish. And what's in the jewelry polish? Ground up hematite, potentially. If it's a fine rouge type polish, the jeweler's rouge is made with that hematite. Pretty cool. Did you know that hematite is not magnetic? So if somebody hands you a piece of metal or stone that looks like metal, it can be a couple different things. It could be magnetite, which is magnetic. It could be pyrite, but pyrite usually is sort of a goldy color that they call fool's gold, because it would fool the fools that didn't know any better when they were panning for gold in the streams. And then there's the hematite, which is another silvery colored metal, sort of like the magnetite. And the only true way that you can really tell, because apparently magnetite and hematite can actually be sort of commingled in the same location, in the same mine. And so some hematite might have a magnetic component to it, which is actually magnetite. And if you took a magnet to it, you could get the magnet to stick a little bit. But the way you find out is that trick again of taking the stone and dragging it across a piece of white ceramic. Just drag it across the bottom of the edge of a bowl or a plate, and you'll find out if it's got that red streak, that reddish brown streak. It's pretty neat. So now I'm going to take this 50% gray, and I'm going to do the ribbon first. And to make it look like a ribbon, I want to show that these pointy ends are tucked down. The way you make something look like it's tucked down and away is that it gets darker. So these ends down here are tucked away. So I'm going to press harder with my pencil and really get an application of colored pencil on there. Then I'm going to come up and use a lighter hand on feathering out towards that highlight in the center. So you end up with it being sort of a gradation going from down in here, coming up. The same thing again, all the way around. Down in those triangles where it would be tucked away and folding in behind is the hardest, darkest gray. Then I'm going to come up with a softer, lighter hand. I'm leaving a space in the center here that is white. That gives you your bright highlight. Your bright highlight. And I'm going to do that again. And I'll be doing something similar on these little spheres, the little beads going around that are the circles. And then lighten that up. And lighten this up. And one more. Dark as it's going down and away, lighter as it's coming up towards the light. And that will actually help you with a lot of different types of things, with fabric, with ribbons, folding things and thinking about if it's going away, if it's coming towards you. Look at that. Isn't that looking pretty? So now these circles, the tops of them this way, coming up, are going to have that light, bright spot, pretty much in the middles. So the outer edges of these circles will be the hardest, darkest, and then coming up, it will be brighter. Hard and dark down low. And now you don't have to do a total circle, circle, circle. It can be like letter C around one edge. And then just a tiny little line on the other side. You do want it to be relatively round. But remember, this is a doodle and it is not perfect. It does not have to stay perfect. It is fun. So I'm going to zoom along here, doing kind of a C, softening that line. It's more important to show your softening up on the bigger circles. The little ones are less important. They're littler. They sort of blend back into the background a little bit. Not everything little is not important, but in this particular instance, the littler stones, the littler beads, they're not as prominent. And I may take that indigo blue on a couple of these just to sort of, I know it's hard to say it warms it up, but to give it a little bit of a variation. But I might just use my white pencil in the centers of all of these on the highlights, just to smooth out that gradation, just to smooth it out. That's sort of letter C with a very small line along the edge. It's darker on one edge than the other. It's just the way light is reflecting. Sorry about that. Just the way the light reflects. Just moves around, bounces. Those little ones just get filled in real quick. And you see, I'm sort of bouncing around. It's whatever ones happen to be right here in front of me, I think. I probably could have done something that didn't have quite so many circles to get filled in. But I liked the design. I liked how it worked, how it came together. It's a lot of fun. So remember, your doodle does not have to look like mine. You can do something totally different. Your stone does not have to look like mine. Again, you can do something totally different. If you go onto Google or Bing or Yahoo or any of the search engines, go on to Pinterest, just don't get lost. Come back, send up a flag so that we know where you are. I have to do that sometimes. Let my husband know I'm going out on Pinterest. If I'm not back in an hour, come look for me. Because it's such a rabbit hole. It's a wonderful rabbit hole. It's a wonderland. But go out there and look up hematite. There's some hematite that actually looks like these beads. It's all lumpy and bumpy on the actual stone. Has these like little nodules all over it. Or it can look, you know, like these smooth polished pieces. It's really very cool. Let's see, grab my pencil here. I'll give these ribbons a quick little scrumble across the edges, just to smooth out the gradation. There we go. Let's see. And I'm just doing sort of a circular swoop with the colorless blender on these circles, making it look a little bit more spherical, giving it a little bit of a gradation of the shadows, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, doesn't have to. And then I think there's going to be just a tiny touch of this white. Not all the way down into that shadow, kind of more up along the edge this way. Just sort of at that point between the black and the gray. That one got a little bit snaky on me there. I think I'm going to take that one off and give it a little bit more of a roundness to it. Not liking that so much. Okay, so a little bit on the outside edge of these beads, just to give it another little reflection spot. Little reflection spot, because these are little metal beads. Let's see. Little bit on those outside edges, just to give it a little bit of a reflection. Inside edge, outside edge. Where's the light bouncing? I'm not happy with that. That one's a little too dark. Nice thing about using your white marker, your white Uniball, so that you can go over things. You can take it away if you don't like it. And if you get some of it in a spot that's got colored pencil, you can actually use the colored pencil to wipe that out. So it's not so sharp on the ends. You can sort of trim the edges a little bit. Look at that. Trim those edges. Make those little highlights a little bit smaller. There. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this lesson, I would really appreciate it if you would click like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video, what you thought of this class, and share these videos with your friends and help them learn how easy it is to do fun tricks with colored pencils and a little bit of ink. So go out and do something creative. Take care. Bye-bye.